Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Project Return members. This is Mr. James coming to you again with another tutorial video on today's topic is going to be art journaling. When I mean art journaling, I mean to make a artist journal that's not so much written but visual. It's going to be a part of your development as an artist or just observing art for your own pleasure and remembering certain aspects of what you have been observing and kind of building off of that. So, there's 10 different ways of journaling your experience with art. I mean, besides like recalling it and then Googling the image and then talking about it, you could always have a physical, reproduction on hand of something that's piqued your interest and kind of taking you could print out a photograph of it and just put it in a book and then write a little note about it. So I'll give you a little insight to what I do usually. I have a couple different books that I use that shamefully I have to admit that I have not used two of them yet. But the one I used most recently, most often, were to trips to museums, and specifically I have certain ones for certain things that I do. Now, when I go out and view different shows and artworks and I want to make notes of my experience, besides taking the notorious 20,000 digital photos that stay on my phone, I take some of those photos and I print them out, or I get them printed very small, or I find brochures with the artwork image or something, and I paste them into a book that I have, events or place event, or I make copies off the internet and I make notes about what I saw. So I take the notes first, obviously, if I don't have the image available, and then I paste it in the book later. But for the most part, it's helpful just to have on hand as a reminder of things that you've seen or observed. And then I make doodles and stuff that references things I've noticed or that piqued my interest. But that's like my art museum journal. That's like for my own reference, okay, of discovery, basically. It's not about like so much art creation, but just taking notes on things that I observed. Going off of that, there's other type of journaling where it could just be thought-based. These ones are really nice. They're obviously full of lined paper. I picked this one up and I haven't used it yet, and I really do plan on using it very soon. This thing's interesting enough. This was clearance at Michael's, my arch nemesis of art supplies, because every time I go there I end up buying way more than I need to, but when it's on clearance it's kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna buy it. So I think like 90% of my art supplies end up getting from Michael's because I see it in clearance and it sits waiting to be dealt with. But this guy was pretty interesting because it's a pretty thin journal. There's really not much to it, and it's made that way because you can add to it. The spine or these binders things, they can be taken out and you can get a hole punch, which I actually already had one before I bought this. It's a hole punch that does the shapes of the binding, and you make the pages, add pages to it, and as you progress, it comes included with some nice little materials, some basic plain drawing paper. This looks more like for putting photographs and stickers in it, and this is some nice textured brown paper. This is some for more like photographs, or for buttons or something that you pick up along your way of your travels, of experiences. And it's just a nice starting journal. It's got a nice, very nice rigid cover, which I liked a lot, so that's probably why I got it. Has a lot of potential. Still haven't done anything with it. Feel very bad about that, but guess what? I haven't. So this one is actually something I'm really proud of. It's a journal that I was expected to make during my 3D design class back in early years of college. And it's something that I've used for reference over and over again. And it's actually, the concept was to custom create your own art journal through your artistic creative experience and how you analyze what you're doing. So basically I just for the material itself, I just used I use this paper over here. It is just regular pastel sorted color paper, so it's kind of rigid, has a nice texture to it, but it takes different mediums. And through the book itself, I was able to, some areas, this is like a ink and then I have some printouts that I did with photography, and then I used a different type of transparent layer. I did different effects with the transparency. I included text and some of the elements. And as you can see, it's just notes of my study of the work I was doing. But as far as part of the creative process and for reflection, it's really important because, you know, as time goes on, not just because you get old, but because you do so much things, and this is like a really good reflection piece on observing an artist's work, is pretty much just like putting in perspective what your thoughts were at that time that it happened. So, you know, it doesn't have to be super complicated. It could be something as simple as, you know, cutting in a picture and then writing a little note about it. And it doesn't obviously have to be typed or printed. If it makes it easier for everyone to do so, I encourage that. My handwriting sometimes gets a little atrocious, and it gets a little sloppy sometimes, so I prefer the print for my own personal reference, but I do jot down notes here and there with handwriting. But as you can see, you know, a lot of reflection on concepts, public works of art that I did, materials that I used, and overall it is just like, has been like very instructive for me to contemplate on this book. Now, I haven't added to it, but these rivets, it was made very basic. I just cut the size. I think it's a 6x9, which is pretty much what we're going to be doing today anyway, so that's pretty convenient. So I just did some scissor cutting. I got some type of special shaped cutting scissors that gave it a special textured edge, and I didn't make the pages perfect. You know, I made them misaligned on purpose. I didn't want them to be like a uniform. I didn't want them to be like a book. And for the most part, the project, or personal project, I should say, for every one of you guys is going to be based off of this idea and this notion of making your own personal art journal. It doesn't have to be used as journal. Do not feel intimidated by the word journal. It could just be a sketchbook, okay? I just want you guys to enjoy what you're doing at home. If there's a break in between coming to project return and you're home, and you're kind of like, maybe you're wanting to give someone a gift, you can make them a personal journal or art book or sketchbook with the materials, and I'm going to show you a couple easy ways of doing so. Okay, so I went ahead and I grabbed a couple of the basic things that we can use first. I like to do the easy to the difficult. I wouldn't say difficult, but to the more involved art journal creation. This is going to be the most basic, the most simple, probably the most affordable also, because you can find all these materials at the magical dollar store. Or you just may have a lot of these laying around at home, which is also very helpful. So for art journals and sketchbooks alike, the first thing you need to know is like how you're going to, you know, hold all the papers together. What's your binding going to be, okay? What I mean by binding is the spine of the paper of where it's going to be held together. A couple different ways of doing binding is glue, staple, the push pins, the rivets, string, which is my preferred. But I'm going to show you the most basic is when you have something like this. This is I just found this laying around the house because, you know, we have tons of kids, lots of folders laying around. So this folder comes with these 3-prong, you know, holes. So the papers that you can use if they're pre-punched can go right into this guy. Okay. So it doesn't have to be the first 2 or 3 pages of the book, but let's just say, for instance, this is how easy it's going to be to start making a journal with the supplies here. Folder, 3 prongs in the middle, metal prongs bent up, pre-punched loose leaf paper. Ready? Would you look at that? Went right in there. Okay, so here's the other part. We'll do some line paper. Put a couple sheets in there, right? Maybe like a beginning entry journal. Actually, you know what? We'll move this around a little bit. We'll just put this paper in here. We'll make this the kind of middle part. Let's put in a page or two in front of this, okay? Just to dress it up a little bit. So I found some colored copy paper. None of this paper is super high-end drawing paper. This is just colored copy paper. You could use cardstock. It's a little bit more rigid. Obviously, there's a little bit more firmness, but you know, this will do just fine for just colorful innards of the card paper. So what I want to do is, like, instead of doing all the same color in a row, I'm just going to start mixing and matching the colors and use this hole punch here to punch a hole in the paper. Let's just say for the beginning sheet, we'll just get one of these guys here. Line up, punch down, and voila. First cover sheet. So on this paper here, you can use the opportunity to make a graphic, put a title like someone's journal, personalize it, and the best thing about it is that it can just come out and just go away if it ends up not being that great. The other part that I do not have is that they do sell loose leaf paper inserts that are 3-pronged, that are clear, so you can make artwork, put them in here, and just store them that way. But you know, so these sheets of paper seem a little bit bigger than this, which is nice. It kind of like nice that it kind of hides it and overlaps, so you can make like sections of different things. Like one could be a journal section, one could be a poetry section, one could be a reflection, photo collage. I think the hole punch will let me do more than one at a time. I think the hole punch is needs to be sharpened there, if that's possible. Let's put a couple more sheets in with the different colors. Then, so this is the most basic way of probably doing this. Let's try multiple sheets again. There we go. Just a little bit more oomph there. Alright, put that in, and then I found some cool graph paper, which is something different to have going on. You know, it just has a little squares, maybe some geometric shape thing going on there. I mean, it's kind of like a grade schoolish kind of obviously look to it, but it's still something fun that someone can do and enjoy. And the other thing what we can do with this is, you know, you can include coloring pages. If you have some extra coloring pages out of the book that'll easily tear out, you can always put them in a hole punch and just include them in here, and boom, you have a little special activity packet for someone to kind of create and build their own thing based off of. So let's just close this up just for the sake of saying we built this up with different sheets and we liked how it came out, but this is just to give you an idea of how easy it is. Like, so we just put the holes through there. This places like this. I mean, this is really the most basic way of doing this. And boom, so you have like a little folder, some journal pages, and some art pages, and some drawing pages. So, you know, very basic way of, you know, and you can alternate the pages. You could do one of these, and then graph paper, a coloring page. So very basic, super nice that you can make for someone. It probably costs you $2 or $3 at the most with all the materials you need. As a gift, it's very nice, and it's personal. Okay, with the magic of photo editing and video editing and the internet, we are back here, and I'm going to show the more involved creation of the journal. Now, I'm going to go over just the paper types, because that's pretty much where the special, you know, appearance of the journal comes from. It's not just using different types of paper, it's the thought behind it, and getting into what can be done with that paper. Now, obviously, just basic old sketch paper is, you know, fundamental. I had a variety of paper and paper books lying around. I did cut some of them down ahead of time because they were very large, and I had this cutting mat, and it's all involved. And I also have kind of like, I wouldn't say a cheat method, but I do have a little small cutter that I use for my own photos that I cut and print. So it kind of helps. Otherwise, you know, scissors, and ruler, and if you have a really nice table at home that you cannot get scratches on, cutting mats pretty much essential. Anyway, so besides that, paper. So I have like standard sketch drawing paper from the from a drawing tablet. This is I would say it's like a black charcoal paper, maybe. Yeah, something like that. This paper sounds like, yeah, watercolor paper. Look at me knowing my papers. Oh, this is a cool paper. So this paper is like a canvas. See it? So if I rip this, it's like cardboard though. So it's not an actual like painting canvas stretch that you can stretch over wood, but it's a canvas paper. So it's very nice to, you know, have that rigid, but get the same texture as a canvas, because you can use this watercolors on this also, and acrylic of course. Ooh, look at that. We have a surprise. So I like picking up photo book paper, things you can decorate photo books with, because they often have like really cool graphics, you know, and that's just a really wild pattern, and it will be fun to, like, you can put elements of your own artwork, drawings, doodles in there, or pictures, and just kind of make your book have a little bit more life to it. Oh, there goes another one too. I think that's pretty cool. Retro travel deal. And here's the magic behind my journals, is that to preserve your artwork, besides creating a cool illusion of layering, because see how, like, if, you know, I had something drawn here and then I put something on top, it gives it like kind of like a frosted look, but I can also draw something on here to make it stronger, and that kind of like gives it that layering. So, but it also protects the work between the pages. So if you have the ability to get, you know, if not tracing paper, wax paper will work, you know, like the stuff you get rolls of in the kitchen, just cut it down. It'll protect the pages in between, so you won't have any color rub or anything like that. Plus I think it just looks cool. So that's my 2 cents on there. So I pre-measured these guys. Let's see if I was right in my memory. My old age is not getting to me. It is 6, yes, by 9. That is correct. So I cut it into a boring rectangle. Shame on me. No fun in rectangles. That's a joke. Really bad joke. But, you know, have fun with your pages. They don't have to be all the same size, maybe roughly around the same size. You can even use edges that you can just rip the pages around to give it a different edge. But, you know, just try to be overall consistent, because you do have to bind these. So that's the other question. So where is your binding going to go? Most books, the binding is on the long side, okay? You could totally do the short side binding. I mean, it requires less time. It's more like a drawing tablet when you think about that, because it would flip up like this. But, you know, to each his own. There's no right or wrong to do it. I like the long edge binding. So, but this is just the innards of the book. So what are we going to use as the outside? So there's also a couple different options. Obviously, whatever's readily available to you, use it. So let's think of a material that's rigid, that's readily available. They showed up the other day. Cardboard. Oop, just shy. But you know what though? That would make a very rigid backing. This side would work. So that's a possibility. Or poster board. Now it's not super thick like the cardboard is, but it depends on what you're doing with your drawing packet and how thick it's going to be. It's just going to give a provided extra outer layer to your you know, your journal or your drawing book. Now, the idea behind using something like this is that if you cut it big enough, we can fold it, put the pages in, and then you can bind it with a staple. You know, it's not the most awesome looking way of doing it, but it is probably one of the easiest ways of doing it. More difficult is gluing, in my personal opinion, because you have to glue everything in between, then you have to put a binding on the spine of it. And then, of course, the higher up it goes is, well, the other easy way of doing it, besides even stapling, is punching a couple holes like my other journal had, and getting these guys, which are like post screws. You know, and you punch 3 holes or 2 holes, 1, 2, and they'll just like, you know, stay together by just those holes. There's no binding, so the pages are easily can be added or removed. So that's a good option. But the one I was going to go for today was going to be some type of string binding. This is twine, which is just nothing fancy. And what I was going to do is I was just going to use this guy here, because it's going to punch small little square holes along this edge. Or you know what, I'll probably do this side here, since it's just smaller, just for the sake of time. Alright guys, thanks for hanging in there. I think I cut up enough paper. What do you think? It's a pretty thick book. I didn't even count the pages, but just looking at it, it's more or less the same thickness, as many pages as a standard probably sketchbook now. So it's pretty decent. You know, something like professionally bound and with really good art paper would cost you like at least like 15 bucks. But like I said, this is more like either personal use or as a gift, a more personalized gift. You could fill it with newspapers, article cutouts, some photo collage works that you know you might find interesting. But so yeah, so I got a good variety of different textures and colors of paper in here, which is awesome. The next step would be is to bind this and add the front and back covers. Now, the cardboard I picked out for the cardboard box may be a little too thick for the binding, so I used 1 piece of cardboard. This will be for the back, back. So yeah, so I can put that down first. All right, so moment of truth. I really had to squeeze the cardboard in here to get into there because unfortunately my hole punch grew legs and walked away, so I didn't have my hand hole punch, so I'm gonna have to use this guy for the time being, which is fine. Like I said, I'm gonna just do it on the short end. This way we don't have as much to. Oh, that sounded like it went through. Oh, and we have 2 holes right there. Okay, let's see if we can get this board punched. Now, as far as the holes being aligned, you might have to put little markers here and there. We're doing the hole punch, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Like I was saying, it can be a little off. This feels like it's going to be definitely tough to do. I'm going to have to put my full. Okay, perfect. My back. That's just the way it's going to be, right? All right, I'm halfway through the paper stack now, and it seems to be like, you know, it's aligning up pretty well. The holes, some of them vary. It's because I'm not really able to keep this super still. You know, like I said, if I had my individual hole punch, it would be much easier, a little more, like, you know, I would be able to lay it out and snap it, but it's going through pretty well. Some of the paper is thicker than the other, so some of them I like to do 2 sheets, some of them I'm going to be doing 1 only, so it's taking a little bit longer than I need it to be, but I just want to make a lot of pages so I can mix them up really well and show you the end result with that. So just stand by, we're almost through this. Okay, now we finally got all the holes punched. I mean, like I said, it was a good amount of paper. I didn't do like a large binding. I'm just doing very basic tablet binding. I could have used the third one here, but like I said, for the moving along with the video purposes, I don't want to make it too long. I split up the videos for the labor. So I'm going to go ahead and arrange some of the papers varying on their texture and their quality of color, and then after that we'll do the binding. Do is I'm going to feed the string through the hole first, so I'm going to give you guys a small tip on how to do this. What I'm going to do is tie the string on one end to this Q-tip here. Exactly, you know what I'm doing. So this way I'm going to line the one side of the pages. It's almost like threading a needle. Yeah. So feed the pages through this toothpick here, because you know the string is very floppy. And then once I completed that, pull the string through, go through the other side once I feed it through. So let's see how fast I can do this. Okay, well, with a little bit of troubleshooting, I think I got this bound okay. It's not the book binding I wanted it to be, but I ran into a couple technical difficulties with using this particular string. I wanted to bind it this way, but apparently, obviously, I wouldn't be able to open the book. So we require the binding on these two corners, just like a round grommet. But running the string through multiple times would have been troublesome with this particular, just because of the thickness of the paper. If it was just like maybe like half the size and I made the hole a little bit bigger, no problem, but learning piece definitely. However, it's got a nice little carrying handle now and you can hang it up. And it's wonderful, so, displaying artwork, you can just kind of flip through the pages that we have here, and the various pages gives us prompts for different types of work that we may want to do in the future. Like I said, it'll make a great gift to someone to personalize this. Different types of paper textures, different types of layouts, and that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial on how to make a little art journal / sketchbook, like I said, for yourself or as a gift for someone, to get them motivated, to get yourself motivated, and to make art. All right, have a great day, everybody.